Ooh. Colin Firth's ex-wife, Livia. My mom brought this up to me. I was like, oh, she goes, oh, did you see so-and-so's ex who said something about Gwyneth Paltrow? I was like, Colin Firth's ex-wife, Livia? She's like, yes. She goes, she was, what did my mom say? She's like, she was spot on.
I just canceled Gwyneth Paltrow. She was supposed to come to the farm in a couple of weeks.
Okay, so if you don't know, this is in response to Gwyneth Paltrow's ad for essentially Nazi luxury villas. So Gwen did an ad for this high-end real estate development company. And let me just, if you missed the ad, I will play it because it's as horrible as you would think it is. Can I get the full ad, please? Yeah.
Oh, not again. Who decided morning should be so early? Even my coffee needs a coffee.
Also, note that obviously it's Gwyneth, so she's speaking English. She's an American celebrity. There are captions or subtitles in Hebrew, but this is for Americans.
Waking up for a morning run can be brutal, but it's a price I'm willing to pay. Because once I hit the park, pure energy takes over. It's hard to explain. There's a reason the world's most iconic buildings are by a park. 51 Park.
New York?
Herzliya. Israel.
51 פארק, שני מגדלי יוקרה בני 51 קומות, צמוד לפארק הרצליה. עכשיו, בתנאי השקה, כוכבית 3566.
Yeah, so this is aimed at rich Americans who they want to go to, they want them to go to Israel and buy property. They want them to stay at a place like 51 Park. They want them to continue being settlers in an area that does not belong to them and that only exists because of continued violence to the population of people who were there.
51 Park, Herzliya, by Aviv Melisron.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow, Gwen. Throwing a little Hebrew at the end. Her going, Herzliya, Israel. They filmed this in New York. They did film this in New York, but it's Herzliya, Israel. Okay, so that was the ad that Gwyneth decided to do last week. This is now almost 3 years. 3 years into genocide, 3 years into a lot of people waking up to the reality of how brutal Israel is as a settler colonial state, as an apartheid state, as a place that is founded on ethnic cleansing and violence and has to sustain that in order to exist as the project was intended. So Gwen decided to drop that in June of 2026. And so people responded by absolutely ripping her to shreds. The comments were overwhelmingly, fuck you, Gwyneth Paltrow. And here's Colin Firth's ex-wife.
I just canceled Gwyneth Paltrow. She was supposed to come to the farm in a couple of weeks' time on a tour, on a Salt to Fork farm experience, and we just canceled her because what she did is completely unacceptable. And I actually have an appeal for everyone in Hollywood who, for so many years, canceled people who was speaking out about the genocide. Even me, I remember the last Green Carpet Fashion Awards in 2024. I was told by lots of agents and stuff, oh, you shouldn't post on Instagram what you do, your activism, because, and I was like, F off. I was like, of course, I'm going to keep speaking. But now, I hope that the reverse is going to happen, that Hollywood is going to start canceling and people are going to start canceling those who actually support the genocide.
See, unfortunately, here's the deal, is that people like Gwyneth and other prominent, wealthy A-listers and other public figures who still openly support Israel, either doing ads or doing just, other forms of propaganda, they do so because they don't fear losing money. They don't fear their careers. Now, those like Deborah Messing, who are out here claiming that her standing up against anti-Semitism, standing up against, crimes committed against Israelis has cost her career. No. Deborah Messing, like a lot of others in Hollywood, she's past her career prime. Like what career? What career? One of the last things you did was Will and Grace revival, because you are no longer anywhere near the heights of your career. But for people like Gwyneth, unfortunately, there are not the repercussions felt in the way that it has been so profoundly for Palestinians and allies of Palestinians. Gwyneth just did something with Andrew too. Right. Because Gwyneth looks at things in dollar signs, in what will further her disgusting treasure trove that she already sits on. And she is a person who is not morally opposed to any of these evils. So that's the hope, the desire, the movement, the goals of the movement is to make it that people like Gwyneth Paltrow and other, politicians, journalists, public figures, anybody who has any type of platform, any type of prestige, feels the consequences of being a disgusting piece of shit. But that is not the case right now because of how deeply entrenched institutional support for Israel still is, that our government is still a government that is by far and away supporting Israel as they continue to push Israel as our great ally. I doubt she could be canceled at this point. Yeah, I mean,
straight to the papers now. Alitza is with us today. She's starting.
Gwyneth is also Gwyneth is a person too. At this point in her career, she just does whatever she wants to do. When somebody told her to do when Safdie came to her and said, "Hey, I want to put you in my movie," he put her in a movie alongside Kevin O'Leary. Like, she and Kevin O'Leary actually play the perfect married couple in Marty's Supreme. They're really meant for each other. But Gwen is at that point where people just come to her and say, "I would like you to be my movie." And she'll go, "Who's this?" And people around her will say, they're actually really, really big filmmakers, or "This is a really good opportunity for you." And then she'll just go, "Okay." She's just given whatever. But the difference is the power that the public has. And this is where people can make individual decisions. If you are incensed over Gwyneth's decision to do this ad, which you should be, then do not buy her products. do not continue to signal to Gwyneth and others like her that it doesn't matter, that not only are they not going to face repercussions from the industries that they are a part of, but that consumers will also not give enough of a shit to stop to stop continuously lining these people's pockets. Shiana, thank you for the 19 months. Flaccid Warrior, thank you for the tier 1. Legit, thank you for the 40. Hello, Sia Sunset, thank you for the prime. Pyrus, thank you for the 8 months. In the year of our Mamdani, 2026, I need us as society recognize cancellations is not real. There's a cosmic difference between losing fans versus institutional backing, and the latter continues to be pro-Israel 100% of the time. Right. So this is from France 24. Could Gwyneth Paltrow be canceled over her Israeli real estate ad? Is she going to be blocked from going to the UK? No. Is she going to have her visa revoked? No. Is she going to be blacklisted from Hollywood? No. But could fans turn on Gwyneth? Yes. She should be, but no.
With some analysis after the announcement of the Iran deal, Alyssa.
Yes, Stuart. Well, starting with the Financial Times that calls it a truce of convenience, and the paper reminds...
In the same way that you have Congress people who are saying the most open-faced Islamophobic, vile shit and have not been censured, have not faced consequences for their rhetoric. Meanwhile, it's like Rashida Tlaib was censured by Democrats because she was one of the few voices standing up against Israel's crimes. So there is still a difference here in institutional backing.
That a week into the U.S. war against Iran, Trump promised, quote, unconditional surrender, but now he's presenting a deal that actually gives more leverage to the Islamic Republic. And the paper quotes Dan Shapiro, who is a former senior U.S. official, who calls it a very weak deal for the United States. And the Wall Street Journal then outlines...
And that's why in these moments, and as somebody who is a pop culture commentator, I think that it is really important to call these people out, to call out the behavior of these celebrities, to contribute to the overall backlash against these people, to try and apply any type of pressure. Like the public making it very clear where the public stands on somebody doing an ad like this is what can be done in a moment like now.
The main issues to watch to see if the deal is actually for real and if it's going to work out. So the first is, of course, the Strait of Hormuz. Will it actually reopen? A lot of things could happen between today and Friday, says the paper. Then we have the U.S. naval blockade on Iranian ships. And the paper says that if it is actually lifted, Iran might be more likely to negotiate on different issues such as nuclear energy. And finally, Israel. Will it give the U.S. and Iran the space to continue talking? And then I want to move on to
Art
British
of the
paper,
deal.
The Guardian, that writes about the anger among some Iranian hardliners. And the paper explains that the deal does not guarantee sanctions relief for Iranians, compensation or control of the Strait of Hormuz. And responding to the hardliners, an advisor to the negotiating team said that Tehran hasn't been required to make any new commitments on its nuclear program, for instance.
Crucial point, of course, Alitza, is how Israel is reacting to the deal. What have you found in the Israeli papers?
Yeah, well, for example, right-wing Israeli paper Israel Hayom says that Iran never won a war, but never lost.
You know what? All I got to do is check Kalshi or Polymarket to tell me what's going on. What's going on with the Iran deal? How legit is it? Just got to check what the betting markets are looking like.
Post a negotiation. This is actually a quote from Donald Trump from 2020, and the opinion piece says that any deal with Iran is worse than the alternatives because it establishes the legitimacy of the extremist regime, and the outcomes make the Trump administration a laughingstock, says the paper. And then moving to left-wing paper Haaretz, and the headline here reads, "Humiliated by Trump on the Iran front, Netanyahu may set the Middle East ablaze." And the
Are you
article says
sponsored
that
like
the
Timothy?
terms of the deal will unlikely match Netanyahu's promises to crush Iran. And the paper also reminds that elections are set to happen in Israel this October, and the Prime Minister
Luxury Israeli real estate act. Speaking of polarizing,
Left-wing Haaretz. I mean, yeah, that's like describing Kamala Harris stands on Twitter as Antifa radical communists.
Gwyneth Paltrow starred in a luxury Israeli real estate ad, and it's gone viral, hasn't it, Elitza, for all the wrong reasons, though.
Yeah, it's a PR disaster. I
Lurkin
want to
Mage,
think
thank you
about
for 12.
her media and PR teams because they're really struggling right now. And the advertisement went viral over the weekend, and people are calling it winocide, which comes, of course, from a genocide. And Paltrow
thank
is
you.
backing one of Israel's tallest residential developments in Herzliya. Let's see if we can play the video here of her advertisement.
Is Timmy getting backlash? Yes. The comments on the Kalshi ad and at least what I saw on Twitter and Instagram are cooking him.
This is it, like she wakes up
Not again.
comfortably in her
Who
residence.
decided morning should be so early?
She's complaining, early mornings. We're all struggling.
I am kind of, this is sending me. It's sending me this reporter like narrating what's happening in the ad.
My coffee.
She's in Israel, enjoying her luxurious life. So the real estate company that owns it also owns a shopping mall in a Jewish settlement in the occupied West Bank. So you can imagine why it drew so much criticism online. People and like celebrities are openly calling it tone deaf, detached from reality, nasty, or simply stupid. The Times newspaper reminds that Paltrow is actually among the most prominent pro-Israel celebrities in Hollywood, and despite of like her popularity and like the fact that she's an Oscar-winning actress, many now
Also, let's not ignore the fact that Gwyneth is tall, white, blonde, rich. She is a perfect example of what fascism holds up as skinny, yes, as a standard. So there's also this element as well that you have tall, skinny, white, blonde Gwyneth Paltrow doing an ad like this.
are saying that she needs to be cancelled.
See whether it affects her career. Thanks very much, Elitza, with the papers on France 24. That's all the
I have to talk about this because it is.
Is Gwyneth Jewish? She is. Her mother is Christian, and her father, I think, was Ashkenazi Jewish. So I think she identifies culturally. Who knows?
So cray. Gwyneth Paltrow of Conscious Uncoupling fame, who I wish I could consciously uncouple from, who, you know, after leaving lead singer of Coldplay, Chris Martin,
Shout out to Fran Fio. If you don't know Fran Fio, this is Fran Fio.
went on to basically found like a wellness empire based on a lot of shaky science called Goop. And for a while it was cute and funny, and it was like, okay, here's this like close to middle age, skinny white woman with a lot of money, silver spoon celebrity. And
I mean, look, she's got the 3 Gs: Goop, Gwyneth, genocide.
And she's now selling us a bunch of face masks, or like, the yoni egg, which we put where, and like, oh, it's funny. And she's all about like, wellness and all this. And then I think because of COVID and because of the influencer wellness.
Yeah, from cleansing your colon to ethnic cleansing, that's Gwyneth Paltrow.
Grift, it became very clear that Goop was actually laundering a lot of anti-science beliefs. And, but of course, if you bought into their vitamin regimen, you too could be free of seed oils or whatever, except don't get me started. All those vitamins have dyes in them. They hate dyes too. Yeah, man, because they'd be the color of caca.
Goop must not be doing well. No, on the contrary, Goop is very successful. Selling like goat milk cleanses, eggs to stick up your vagina that cost $80, candles that are vaginal smelling, rectal ozone therapy. She has made a lot of money from that.
If they didn't have dyes, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just like, what are you? Anyway, they would actually all be white. Anyway, people put dyes in vitamins so that they are like brown or yellow. The point is, Gwyneth Paltrow's now, I think, fully letting her freak flag fly.
Oh, is that the first time that y'all have heard of rectal ozone therapy? Which is something that Gwyneth Paltrow shares as a wellness hack. Yeah. So, what is that? What is that? Well, it's exactly as it sounds. So, it's ozone therapy, which, mind you, just so you know, ozone can be very, very, very dangerous to human lungs if it is inhaled. So, ozone therapy is a technique that has existed before Gwyneth Paltrow, but a lot of the studies around it are, let's just say, low in evidence and sketchy. And clinical trials on it have only been done on animals so far. So just so you know. And yeah, rectal ozone therapy is when you administer ozone therapy through your rectum. So you take it up the ass.
Here this week, she's got a podcast. She has a podcast, and she had the founder of,
and there are no proven medical benefits. Let me just be very clear. This is a lot of how the wellness culture operates, where they pretend that something is much more beneficial than has actually been proven. And you really need to do research on things that you are partaking in.
Of the military company Anduril. I've talked about Anduril before because Anduril is the sword from Lord of the Rings. I think it's Aragorn's sword, and it's like Anduril steel or something like this. And again, it's one of the many military tech companies named after a Lord of the Rings thing. And
ozone
because they're a
therapy.
Bunch of, fascist dorks who
boofing ozone for no reason. For no reason, but it's because Gwyneth Paltrow claims that it's great for the immune system.
don't even understand the Lord of the Rings, and you can watch my video about that. But Anduril is co-founded by this guy named Palmer Luckey, who's like insane. He's like a fucking Doonesbury cartoon. But then the other guy who co-founded it with him sat down with Gwyneth Paltrow on her podcast, Goop. And she kind of admits to him that, and it's like, yeah, babe, you might be a Republican if you're interviewing a guy who makes drone warfare used to better kill children.
I noticed with my own husband too, who's the best person ever in the world. He's so progressive. Like, he has such a sweet heart, and he wants to like make sure everybody's looked after. I'm pretty centrist.
I can't get over her acknowledging how wonderful and kind and caring her husband is as a quote unquote progressive, which I don't really know her husband's politics, but according to Gwyneth, it's progressive. For her, I'm sure it is progressive. But then she goes on to say, I'm centrist, thereby like admitting to not being like her husband, who is kind and caring. She's like, nope, couldn't be me.
And my husband thinks I'm a Republican, which I'm not a Republican. I mean, I don't feel anything right now, to be totally.
Cue the meme from White Lotus. Cue Leslie Bibb. I'm an independent.
Honest with you, I feel like I'm a completely an independent.
I love when rich people don't feel anything. It's just amazing. You're like, what would it be like to feel nothing? I love that for you. You know, I'm pretty centrist. You know, it's because I can't really put my finger on it. Is it my marble countertops? Is it my security guard? Is it my millions of dollars through my, you know, bullshit wellness brands, or my, you know, my many movies? I don't feel.
Okay, let me just say, Gwyneth Paltrow and people like her, their brand of independent is, I am actually right wing, but I know enough to not say that I'm right wing because of obviously the terrible associations, because of MAGA, because of right wing being synonymous with fascism. So it actually shows you that Gwyneth knows enough to still claim independence, to still claim like apolitical. Exactly. It's signaling that, no, I'm not one of these woke libs. I'm not one of these, you know, radical progressives, but I know enough of what, you know, I'm aware enough to not own up to actually being right wing. And it's, again, these are the type of people who, but the other part of this is that the reason they think that they aren't right wing, even though they are in just about every regard, is because they'll be like, but I love gay people. Gwyneth will be like, I love the gays. So how could I be right wing if I love the gays?
You know what I mean? Because, like, well, one, I can't feel because of all the like filler in my face, but I've got everything. And it's like, isn't that great? Wouldn't it be nice to just walk around pretending like you're apolitical? You don't feel anything. Everyone's just so blah, 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 me, left, right, wah, wah. Oh, God, can't we all just not feel together? I'm a centrist. Her own effing husband thinks she's a Republican.
Pretty centrist, looked after. I'm pretty centrist, and my husband thinks I'm a Republican, which I'm not a Republican.
I always wish somebody would follow up that and say, what do you mean by that? So what's an example of your centrist politics? Why do you claim the title of centrist? What does that mean?
And I mean, I don't feel anything right now, to be totally honest with you. I feel like I'm a completely an independent. I know.
Okay, Anna Kasparian. I'm sorry. It just sounds, that's very like unaligned vibes. That's very.
Also, I think we did cover this before, but Gwyneth has done propaganda with Noah Tishby, who is she's an Israeli influencer, I think former beauty queen, and she's one of the main propagandists in Hollywood. So she'll do podcasts and other content with people like Gwyneth Paltrow, and of course she's done stuff with the usual suspects like Juliana Margulies, Deborah Messing, you know. But Gwyneth did that like 2 years ago. So this actually is not coming out of left field.
Unaligned vibes. Like, yeah, I guess I want everyone to be taken care of, but like the way they're doing it.
Yeah, here's her collabing.
Hanukkah, everyone. Welcome to the first night of 8 nights of lighting candles together. And for the first night, I'm so excited to have Gwyneth Paltrow here with me. Tell me a child.
And before anyone's like, oh, what? So you can't celebrate Hanukkah if you're Jewish? Shut up. Noah Tishby is a paid propagandist. Noah Tishby's whole thing is to do content with popular A-listers, with powerful A-listers like Gwyneth, doing this type of non-political content, but we know we know what the purpose is here. Okay, this is not just two women celebrating Hanukkah. Of course, there is nothing wrong with celebrating Hanukkah, just like there's nothing wrong with celebrating any holiday tied to a religion that you are a part of. Noah Tishby, though, is a political actor. She is a political propagandist. And if you go to her profile, the videos are all what is anti-Zionism and here's why it's bad. Yeah.
Childhood memory.
I think my most favorite is when I go back to being at my grandparents' house, getting the Hanukkah gelt.
Those ones? Those ones?
Those ones. But I have such a strong memory of the gold round coins and just my brother and I liked.
It's the same thing. Recently I had called this person out. Let me pull up. Yeah, Alexandra Socha. So she is a Broadway actress who formerly was Glinda, and she was very incensed about sorry, I am blanking on his name. Ali Borgi's speech when he won the Tony. And the reason she was incensed is because he specifically mentioned Palestinian lives, and he did so in tandem with recognizing, the need to fight for also immigrant and LGBTQ lives. Alexandra Socha has done propaganda content with people, with the likes of Hen Mazzig. Hen Mazzig is also another one of these vile paid propagandists. You probably see his shit pop up. He has specifically had this obsession with Matt Bernstein and has been like stalking, harassing him for quite some time now. He was formerly a fan, and then when Matt became very prominent in his anti-Zionist content, Hen became, it's like similar to kind of Ethan Klein with Hassan. Hen Mazzig just obsessively would talk about Matt Bernstein and be posting about him. So Alexandra Socha did a series with Hen Mazzig that's similar to this, where it's all about like being proud to be Jewish, which on the surface is like, oh, nothing's wrong with that. But you don't even have to like barely go below the surface to understand the purpose of this type of propaganda, because not all propaganda is the same. Not all propaganda is going to explicitly be like, Israel, hi, we support Israel. Palestine doesn't exist. This is a more, like low key, but still when you know it's propaganda, like you see how clearly it's propaganda, where these propagandists like Noah Tishby and Hen Mazzig will do like series with other prominent Jewish performers, either on Broadway or in Hollywood, and they'll promote it as content that is highlighting, how amazing the Jewish faith is, how wonderful it is to honor Jewish faith, et cetera, et cetera. If you look at Noah Tishby's grid, Noah Tishby is not low-key at all. But I mean, if you're not aware of her and you see something like this, you don't really you might not understand what the purpose is behind it. Some hospitals will only post positive things about Israel and keep it as apolitical as possible. Right. Yeah.
It is just like so squawky and loud. Anyway, tell me about your drone company. Yeah. Oh my God. So you have like a really high kill rate. And so if I invest in it, that's incredible.
Kaiser roll, thank you for
And
6
here's my
months.
thing with
Olivia,
rich
thank you for
people.
34. Whispers,
What do
thank you
we
for 16.
always say on this show? Just fuck off into the night, right? On this show, we say if you're
I
a
love
millionaire, a centimillionaire, and look, Shoykat Chakrabarty ran for office, Tom Steyer ran for office, that's fine. If you want to try and do good, amen. Good, more power to you. I support that. If you want to support causes, that's great. You go do that. But the quest to amass even more money, do you think Gwyneth Paltrow needs more money? Like, you cannot live forever. Elon.
And I do think an important part to recognize here is that Gwyneth Paltrow is a Zionist. Gwyneth Paltrow is so morally bankrupt, but that like understanding that yes, she's a capitalist, so there's no such thing as enough money. There's no such thing as being satiated with what you have. She is a capitalist businesswoman, and she's been very successful in her endeavors. But also, Gwyneth is morally bankrupt. So that is why she does not support progressive causes. And that is why she is a supporter of Israel. It's not her being like, oh, it's not like her agent sent her this ad. She has no idea what's going on with Israel and Palestine. And it's like, sure, $20 million, whatever the fuck it was, like, sounds great. I'll do it. I think that lets her off the hook too much. So I think important to recognize the, yes, soulless venture capitalist businesswoman element here, but also that she holds these views. Now, do I think Gwyneth Paltrow has been paying attention to everything going on? Absolutely not. Do I think Gwyneth Paltrow is a Zionist? Yes.
Hasn't gotten your class to Mars yet. What could this possibly be for? Like, how many homes do you have to maintain? And now, as if that weren't bad enough.
Steyer and Sykot should put money into DSA chapters across the state. Their pocket change would make us formidable. I will say that the skepticism people had towards Steyer and Sykot because of the, Steyer's a billionaire. Sykot's a multi-millionaire, but very, very wealthy. I do think that is probably proven more if they do not if they don't take their money and support progressive causes and candidates, especially Tom Steyer being a billionaire. Tom Steyer, who spent $200-something million to run for governor and is somebody who amassed his wealth through very morally bankrupt means. He is somebody who I think in this moment could show that he actually means what he says, despite the fact that he lost. So he's not going to be able to put that into action as governor, but he could still put that into action as a rare billionaire who is supporting progressive policies. Steyer needs to do some shit, or else it was for vanity. Yeah, or else it just looks like, oh, I think folks were correct to be skeptical of this billionaire.
I'm basically a Republican. I mean, my husband thinks I'm a Republican, but I'm not. But anyway, tell me more about your drone company. This is Goop, the place that, makes sure that you're not putting any horrible synthetics in your face care and your face routine and your skincare routine. This, however, is made with 100% blood of Palestinian children. It's beautiful. It's incredible. It's really lifting. It's really lifting. And if you think I'm exaggerating, that is actually quite literally what she's hawking now, because she is now the face of a new...
Yeah, and I doubt that Gwyneth will respond to this. I would be I would be very shocked. I would be very shocked. Okay, I've been wanting to watch this video. This is a content creator called Politics and Fashion. And this is a video titled From Goop to Maha, Gwyneth Paltrow and the Politics of Rich Women's Wellness. So this was something that I briefly had brought up on one of my IRL streams in New York when the Gwyneth ad dropped. And I was like, you know, we need to have a deeper conversation here about how Gwyneth Paltrow is really representative of the wellness to fascism pipeline of like eugenics being promoted via like elite luxury, ridiculous, non-scientifically backed products. She is really one of the OGs here of the wellness culture.
With you, I feel I'm completely an independent. Okay, Gwyneth girl. Yeah, we hear you. So at a time when people are losing their reproductive rights, when people are losing their life, liberty, their bodily autonomy, their overall safety with rampant ICE raids.
To be fair, Gwyneth barely knew she was in a Marvel movie for like 10 years. Okay, let me just say that I have been a person in the past who has simultaneously recognized Gwyneth as the epitome of white waspy privilege and also have still managed to find her humorous because she always seemed like airy and not knowing what the hell project she was a part of, and that it's like she was always she was not a person who tried to pretend like she was like everyone else. Stars, they're just like us. Gwyneth Paltrow went, oh no, I'm not. Gwyneth Paltrow is not like everyone else. And there was almost something in the kind of recognition that she's a very rich, out of touch lady. Yeah, like there was almost a campiness to it. There's a campiness to it, which is why I think a lot of Gwyneth's shit flew kind of, I don't even think under the radar, but it helped her to dodge real criticism. And now we are at a point that there is that shield cannot be used anymore. That cannot be applied. Gwyneth cannot continue to evade criticism here. She came off as not offensive. Yes. And I think what I'm realizing too is Gwyneth has benefited from people thinking that she doesn't know what's going on. And do I think it's true that she has no awareness of what Marvel films she's been in because she doesn't give a shit about it? Yes. But do I think that then is the same as having no idea what's going on with anything ever? Not quite, because Goop is a very successful company. Gwyneth is a successful capitalist business lady. So she is not stupid. She's not stupid. She is not somebody who's just kind of like out in the desert with her crystals and her, $500 yoga pants. She knows what she needs to know in regards to her brand.
With foreign wars and genocides that have gone unchecked, we get you, girl. You don't feel not a thing.
The whole ski accident lawsuit and accepting at $1 compensation and her leaning over and saying, I wish you well. Yeah, that gave her a lot of positive PR.
But what we have to really dissect today is not feeling anything is actually a sign of immense privilege. It's a luxury, just like that $15,000 vibrator that you were selling down there at Goop with a number of other grifts. And so today we're going to dissect the brand that is Gwyneth Paltrow. I believe she represents a type of wealthy woman that is so dangerous, and their role and how they relate themselves to a so-called feminist.
Genuinely curious who's buying Goop. I've never heard someone say, oh, I use Goop. I literally knew someone who worked for Goop, let alone countless people in Los Angeles who have bought Goop products. And the person, this is actually bringing back a memory, the person I knew who worked for Goop said Gwyneth was intense. It was not something that, like, when Gwyneth would come into the office, it would be giggles and, kind of chill, low-key vibes. I think Gwyneth had a reputation for being intimidating and being somebody who does not fuck around.
Belief system is absolutely insidious, and they are not our allies, to be quite frank with you. We're going to get into Goop and all the controversy, and we're going to round things out with her most recent statements. Even if people like Gwyneth Paltrow bore you to tears, like, because I hear her name and I'm like, ooh, it's paint.
I refuse to try Super Goop. Yeah, just so you know, Super Goop sunscreen separate from Goop.
Drying on the wall. I wonder how many pieces of hair Poops has on her fur. Like, those are the things that supersede a thought of Gwyneth Paltrow in my mind, right? So even if that type of, like, vapid archetypal figure does not, it doesn't quite whet your palate for critical discourse, stick around, because she is symbolic, and so is Goop, of so many other things that I know you were going to be interested in. Let's get started. And the quote came from one of the most Nepo babies of all Nepo babies that have...
Yeah, and I think the point she made there was, she's like, look, I get it. It's Gwyneth Paltrow, someone who's been around for a long time, someone who's got this, got this reputation, and I think a lot of people have kind of not paid attention. And this goes back to what we talk about all the time, which is people who follow politics quite seriously, who think pop culture is all just vapid and, low stakes. And like, why are we talking about pop culture when we have all this very serious political stuff to talk about? But that actually a person, Gwyneth Paltrow, a person like Gwyneth Paltrow, but specifically Gwyneth Paltrow, is tied to politics, because pop culture is politics. Politics is downstream from culture. Culture is upstream from politics. Yes. And when we look at, like, RFK Jr., when we look at the anti-science that is being pushed in the US, when we look at how more and more people have fallen victim to conspiratorial thinking that is related to, one, being being a post-truth society, two, the amount of disinformation online that is now proliferated by AI and by, real people who are incentivized to spread just total lies, and how people across the political spectrum are becoming more and more conspiratorial in their thinking. And one big part of that is in the wellness industry, and how COVID was such a significant event, a period in this country that is still ongoing, and one that contributed to many people going from, like, normal, rational thinkers to really anti-science and echoing a lot of right-wing driven falsehoods
ever existed. If there was a competition of Nepo babies, if there is a book of Nepo babies, Gwyneth Paltrow has got to be in this book. For folks who do not know, she descends from what many call Hollywood and acting royalty. She's the daughter of actress Blythe Danner, who I think is mostly known for stage plays. She's a thespian of sorts, but also I think Hollywood roles as well. Gwyneth started out acting with her mother in plays and on film, and her father, father, Bruce Paltrow, was a TV producer. He died years ago. She was about 30, she says in the interview with Rachel, when her dad died, but they were very, very close. And there are a few narratives about her early life that do not mention this one very important thing, which is that she went to Spence, this elite private school in New York City. And this school today has a tuition of upwards of $60,000 a year. It is highly selective, very difficult to get into, and it is known as one of the schools that produces the most Ivy League students. I mean, going to Spence pretty much presumes you're going to go to.
Yeah, her mom's been in a lot of movies.
So we're talking.
A lot of women went down the rabbit hole when they got pregnant, had kids, traumatic experience with the medical system, COVID, having scary experiences. Being a mother is really what makes people go down the hole. Yes, that is something I've talked about too. That is a result of a society that is deeply misogynistic and blames mothers for so many societal ills, and has continued to push this idea that there are, changes to it depending on the historical time period, but this idea of what the perfect mother is, and women who do not fulfill this image of a perfect mother are bad mothers, and that then we have full reins to blame them for everything. So there is this pressure on women, pressure on mothers, and because then too of terrible experiences with the with the medical field for Black women, we talk about medical racism all the time, but the way that women's health is ignored because women's health is not prioritized. Women's health is something that it's not taken seriously. Like, there's still so many things. I was just talking about this with my sisters. So many things that so many women experience that we have trouble getting treated for because of misogyny. People typically go into holistic healthcare as a result of failures in their current healthcare system or having no access to healthcare. So yes, this is something where individuals who fall down this, we cannot just cast blame on individuals without recognizing the societal failures, these structural failures that have resulted in a lot of women falling victim to disinformation and propaganda. Yeah, these are failures of a system that is responsible for then people being vulnerable to falling for like RFK Jr.'s bullshit.
About a woman who's honestly never had an average life.
Cutie,
and then
thank
when
you for the gifted.
Add to that the fact that she really is, for many people, the standard of beauty from a Western perspective. She's tall, she's thin, she's blonde. She seems to not age. Maybe it's out of bone broth.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll get to that in a minute. And there's a new biography out about her that I'm tempted to read only because I'm so nosy. And the author did this insane amount of research where they interviewed over 200 people about her. And they say that most people found her to be very triggering. It might be true for me as well, because of what she represents. And I think in Rachel's interview with her, what Rachel did a really good job about, in my opinion, is dissecting Gwyneth the person from Gwyneth the brand and challenging her on playing into the brand. Like, this may not be who you are. It may be reductive, to use Gwyneth's words. I just cannot. Why don't they call her Gwen? I just don't know why we got to say your full liturgical Shakespearean name,
Not the Shakespearean name.
It may be reductive, as Gwyneth says, but you know that. And as Rachel said, you're in on it. And you play into it.
Oh, absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely, she plays into it. She said during a lecture she gave for Harvard Business School, I can monetize those eyeballs. So she is well aware of the controversy that she has generated throughout her life and career. And she knows that people are yelling at her all the time on the internet. So even if Gwen gives off the even if she gives off the vibe that she herself is not online, like Sydney Sweeney as well, who is like both at once been very online and then tried to be like, I'm whatever, I'm not even on the internet. I don't even know what people are saying. What? But I know exactly what they're saying. But anyway, Gwyneth is aware that generating headlines equals money. She knows that she can garner vitriol online and then turn that into cash. We watched her cutting room floor.
So people find what she represents as a brand to be emblematic of so many things in our society. What it means to have this American aristocracy, what it means to have this insane amount of generational wealth, what it means to have been so successful as a young woman. I mean, she won an Oscar, I think, before she was 25. What it means to be at the epicenter of beauty, to be so well educated, to be the life of the party, the one that everybody wants to know, the girl that all the boys want to date. And then there's this coastal elite waspy, for folks who are not in the U.S., white Anglo-Saxon Protestant culture.
Let's not forget that Harvey Weinstein bullied his way into getting those Oscars for Shakespeare in Love. Okay.
Also
completely changed how award season operates and turned award season into this machine
around her life that can
be
Jane
a
Campion
lot to
quote?
be
confronted with in one person.
I did.
And again, either you're someone like me and you find it very triggering.
She just needs to not talk.
Or you're one of the Goop subscribers and supporters who say, I want to be just like you. And when we have someone who ticks all of these boxes of privilege, she's straight, she's cisgender, on top of everything else I've named, to hear her say, I don't feel anything, we know it's likely because she's isolated from the real world in a major way. Is she the only one? Absolutely not. But are her comments incredibly, once again, triggering? Yes, because of this empire that she, to this day, is still the CEO of. Goop, which is a wellness company that she founded, is worth, by some estimations, $250 million.
Also, another thing that Gwyneth has said is she was talking about how when you are at the forefront of something new, which let's also not forget that there are elements of the Western capitalist-oriented wellness culture that takes from Eastern medicine. Okay, so to be clear, it's not that holistic medicine is all bad. It's not what we're talking about here. So just funny for Gwyneth to be like, every single thing I have created, I have been the first, I have been at the forefront of. But anyway, so she was talking about that and she's like, people react when you are at the forefront of something new. And they're like, this is crazy. What are you doing? This is totally nuts. But then in 5 years, everyone is fine with it. And I think there's something chilling in that, particularly because it's Gwyneth who's saying that. And I think if you apply that to her doing this ad for this luxury company in Israel, her mentality is it becomes normalized. People become, they either go along with it or they have fatigue. But either way, the dissent is going to die down and people will move on. And then it's normalized in society, which is really cynical and very dark, but also there is truth to that. There is truth to that, where people will collectively forget as well, as we've seen with all the discussion around Michael Jackson, which I am not getting into again. But I remember how the world felt towards Michael Jackson when he died. And now years later, seeing that there has been this collective either forgetting, which has also been helped along by the Michael Jackson estate, but that's just one example. But we see this with men who were outed as abusers during the Me Too era and then just kind of bided their time, came back. Some people said some people were outraged. We're like, what the fuck? Okay, I see that there are no consequences really here. This whole cancel culture is destroying society. What cancel culture? But then others who just forgot, or people who just stopped caring, because we have such short attention spans, and we have lived for so long in a 24/7 news culture where there's always fucking something happening. And Donald Trump is so the agent of chaos and flooding the zone with shit that it exhausts people. People only have so much room in their so much storage in their heads to remember things. And so Gwyneth is correct that whatever the reason is, and it is a collective of reasons, people do move on. They do become fine with something. They do stop caring. They do forget.
That is $250 million.
The property she's advertising is built atop a village that was violently cleansed in the Nakba, and the world was horrified at the time, and then it became normalized and paved over literally and figuratively. Yes, and Zionists are holding out. I believe a lot of Zionists are holding out on thinking that when enough time passes and nothing is significantly done to quell Israel's power, that people will become exhausted, that people will just kind of look at Israel's crimes similarly to how they look at the United States crimes, which is, yeah, it's bad, but what are we going to do about it? Got to move on with our life. And then that's why they also do the soft power thing. That's why they participate in Eurovision, etc. I think people are also used to so many celebs being shitty that they no longer care about the individuals and just act like it's normal and to be expected from them and not something to be called out. Yeah, I mean, there is absolutely a privilege that celebrities have where they are given a lot of grace and they are given more chances because of their status. And so yeah. All of this, which is why it's important to not forget, which is why it's important to keep talking about things, keep this stuff recorded, recording history so that history is not just recorded by the victors. So history is not erased in ways that are beneficial to oppressors.
She has incredible influence. And I would argue it's not just her who feels this way.
One L Sargent, thank you for the 8 months.
Similarly positioned in society and those who want to be like her. Let's jump now to what I want to call the goop grift.
The goop grift.
And the goop grift almost got me, baby. I ain't gonna hold you. There is something about that branding when it first started, especially at a time when we were all kind of reading blogs. Into the Gloss was so popular, and Emily Weiss and the others. And so we were just eating up all of this new age kind of wellness, these tips and life hacks, this optimization that today has become mainstreamed, but that had to come from somewhere. And I would argue Goop was at the beginning of this trend, if not one of the early creators. So they say Gwyneth was like, listen.
Okay, dude, I know you are not trying to make a comparison between Platner and Michael Jackson. There are 30 fucking reasons I can name off the top of my head why that is an insane comparison, but also just your main problem is that you are distracting. You are distracting from the conversation we are having. But yeah, that's a wild comparison. Absolutely wild. So you need to move on from this hole that you're digging, this hill that you're dying on. You need to lock back into this.
I'm about to wind this acting thing down. It can't last forever. What should I do? Someone said, oh, you should go into creating a motherhood brand. She said, I don't want to do that. She said, instead, I'm going to create a brand that is focused on wellness. Now, I'm going to dissect this idea of wellness in just a moment, but we're going to just use it colloquially for now. She said, I want to create a brand that is focused on wellness. She's wealthy, she's well connected, consulted some people, bam, Goop, get started, and it skyrockets. And to this day, it has not just products for sale, but Goop is also known for lots of articles, opinion pieces.
And let me just state for the record, that's not me. That's not me doing like coverage for Platner's black marks. Okay. I'm just saying, like, we're not about to have a discussion where we are comparing Graham Platner, who's running for Senate in Maine, to Michael Jackson.
Is blog posts that are allegedly also wellness related, although the examples I'm about to give you undercut for me any true analysis around their health claims. These are just a bunch of skinny, starved women who are bopping around this office just making stuff up. And anybody who gets their wellness advice from a platform like this is part of the problem. Because Gwyneth, stop. The first thing we're going to talk about is that egg that she had y'all putting in y'all coochie. Do you remember this? Gwyneth Paltrow and the people down at Goop, they said, put this $60 jade egg inside of your vagina, and it is going to realign your chakras. It is going to help you energetically, and most important, it's going to help with the menstrual discomfort. There's no medical claim, no science around this.
There is a psychological thing too when a product costs a lot of money, an absurd amount of money. People are more inclined to believe that it actually is legit. Now, I know that sounds strange because others will look at that and go, that's a fucking scam. That is a scam of a scam. But others believe that, oh, this must be real and legit because it costs so much. Like people thinking the Erewhon smoothies are the best smoothies in the world because they cost $20 fucking.
Nothing. And this again is going to be one of several examples
if
I'm
it
going to give you today.
big money,
and when
it
she
must
gets
be high
questioned
quality
about these things, she's like, it's the patriarchy. I mean, proof. That's just the patriarchy. You want me to believe that an egg made of stone, I'm supposed to put this inside my coochie. You want me to walk around all day with an egg that is hitting my vaginal walls. You know, you want me to walk around with that inside of me all day.
While also doing
and you want
rectal
me to believe that it has
therapy.
some medicinal component to it. And not only that, but it's $66 US. Don't piss me off. Please don't do this. And here's my thing. Not only are there no health benefits that can be studied or attributed to a jade egg in your coochie.
Egg up the twat, ozone up the ass, feeling great. Are we winning now? I feel like I'm winning.
It also can cause toxic shock syndrome. So there's no health benefit, and it can actually put you in harm's way.
There are so many articles like this that are like, doctors warn against Gwyneth Paltrow's insert insert advice, product, hack, etc.
And things like this for me are so racialized because so many Black women are facing fibroid tumors to this day. I'm someone who had a hysterectomy partially. My uterus was removed at only 33 years old. And I was looking for any and everything to help preserve my uterus. If I had bought into that and truly was desperate for help and then wound up actually, number one, not only did it not help, but it worsening my symptoms, who was coming to save me? Because see, I'm the kind of person that the medical industry cares nothing about as a Black woman in America. And so when we have these individual interventions that are not backed by science, that are harmful, that when spoken about publicly lead to a lot of mis and disinformation, it is communities who've been marginalized that tend to suffer the worst, because Gwyneth Paltrow and her homegirls can just find a functional medicine doctor to go to. They can just get, the next vitamin B drip. They can fly down to a wellness center in Costa Rica on top of having the best medical care in the country if they get TSS. But I'm here fighting for my life as a result of trying to find an intervention to something that was a very, 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 very serious medical situation that I was suffering from for years. It is a grift, but unfortunately, not the only one. So let's keep going. Them people is obsessed with vaginas. They are obsessed with it. And it's so funny to me because I find this brand of woman to really feel like she's being, to use Gwyneth's words with Rachel. Again, I'm referring to the cutting room floor episode. They think they're so irreverent, as Gwyneth called herself. And they're so radical because they talk openly about a body part that over half of the population has, which is a vagina. You cannot tell these people that they are not single-handedly changing the world by using the term vagina publicly, by saying vibrator openly. It is someone who believes in pleasure and sexual health and bodily autonomy and the activism that goes around comprehensive sexuality education. I understand those things well. But baby, saying the word coochie that's radical to the white elite women that you know. Because I've never been given the...
Also, let's not act as if Gwyneth Paltrow was the person or one of the early people to being pro sex positivity, pro sexual health, like at the forefront of it. Despite what Gwyneth and the Goop brand will have you believe, that is not the case. And per usual, black women are always erased from history. Gwyneth Paltrow is the first person to ever say the word vagina. But there was a lot of good PR attributed to Gwyneth. There was a lot of like kind of cred given to her by a lot of people who believed that Gwyneth put women's sex health on the map. That it's like Gwyneth was selling these vibrators and vagina eggs and vagina candles and using the word vagina, that she patented the coochie. She patented the fucking coochie. Yeah, she did.
Benefit, because I was hypersexualized by this society when I was a child. I wasn't given the benefit of innocence, and so sexuality was forced upon people who look like me. And so you believing that you were out here Asada Shakur talking about a vagina is another example of such an insane amount of privilege. You can't convince them that, okay? So they're obsessed with vaginas. They think it's just, the radical thing. They
patented the coochie is so funny.
It's just so feminist. You talk about vaginas. So then now they send people say, sit on this pot with these herbs in it and steam your vagina. because it's going to cleanse the uterus. Doctors have told that lady, they said, listen, the vagina cleans itself, you know, and if you are facing an odor, if something is happening, then that steam ain't gonna help. And as a matter of fact, what it likely could do, I'm not a doctor, what it could do is upset your pH balance, causing an overgrowth of bacteria and/or yeast, and so it could cause more problems.
Steamed
Now,
clams.
I've had a vaginal steam. The people down there at that spa, the Korean spa, they put a garbage bag on me like Missy Elliott, and then they put me on a pot. And me and my auntie, we sat there and we sweat. We sweated for at least half an hour. Now, when I got up, I don't know. Outside of being insanely uncomfortable for 30 minutes, I felt like, well, I did it, but I don't ever have to do that again. I'm so happy I didn't because of the possible issues that, once again, it can cause. So not only is it not helping these things that they are promoting, they are possibly hurting. And it should go without saying that there is no connection between vaginal steaming and reproductive health. There's none. There's none. You may want to fight with me in the comments about this. I think that we just have to be really careful and just call a thing a thing. There is no scientific connection between these two things. Now, if you want to put on that me, I'm super fly, super duper, I can't sit. If you want to put that garbage bag on you and sit on a pot full of herbs and hot water and steam, go off. Go off, friend. But what we're not going to do is pretend that that's going to help you to get pregnant, that is going to detox. Oh, they love a detox. That's going to detoxify you.
Yeah, the detox is a major staple in wellness culture.
There is this consistent search for optimization among these people that I find to be so narcissistic that it's not. Steam if you need to, baby. Have fun with it, but do not connect it, Gwyneth, to a medicinal benefit, because the people who I trust and said it doesn't exist. Oh, and then how can I forget, girl, there were two things that were part of a settlement that she had to come to with California. One, the coochie egg. The state of California, the Regulatory Commission said, stop doing that. That's not true. And they fined her $145,000 pennies, along with something else, which was an Inner Judge flower essence blend. I don't know if that was a tea or what it is, but she claimed it assisted in the clearing of guilt, shame, and self-criticism and helping prevent depression.
Oh, dude.
Flowers.
Yo, and there are a lot of people who will look at a $22 flower oil or whatever the fuck it is as a prevention for depression or as a cure or whatever and go, well, that is cheaper than therapy, or, you know, not having access to health care, which includes mental health care. And so, yes, this is an expensive product, but they'll look at that as a cheaper alternative. And also because, as we've already stated, women in particular have had terrible experiences in the medical system who then go online to try and find answers to their problems. And somebody mentioned if women who live in conservative households where they can't talk about their health, right? That's not something that is an environment for that kind of thing. And so it's like they are on their own. They are trying to find things online. They see this promoted all over the place. It's like all, the millions in marketing spent for Goop products going down the rabbit hole without getting medical advice.
A flower essence blend was going to help prevent depression. And so the coochie egg and the blend of tea, those things, the California, the crunchiest, the granolaest of the place, said not on my watch. Gave her a little slap on the wrist. And I might argue that case, among a bunch, just Google Goop, a bunch of other criticism has led the brand to pivot. So today they make a lot less wellness claims and they do a lot more beauty as well as clothing on their website. When I went to their website for this video, I was actually very surprised to see so much clothing because it's just not how they started, but I think a lot less controversial. Oh, here's my favorite one. Because have you ever seen those little kids that come home from school or daycare and then they'll have like all of these stickers? It'd be like Clifford and stars and rainbows and clouds. It's like, it'd be stickers, Paw Patrol all over them. So she was selling those. And she said that what the stickers were going to do, let me get this correct, was biofrequency healing. So if you put it on your body, it would create all of these health benefits. Stickers. And the worst part is she would have her employees like testing these things out.
Fuck.
What are we doing?
Out of here.
Are we okay with this? Actually, more broadly, are we okay? But are we okay with this? Oh, now can I forget the coffee enema?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
The coffee.
Yep.
So I got an egg in my vagina. You want me to put Cafe Bustelo in my booty.
I knew way too many women who were doing coffee enemas. I want to say this was like circa 2018 is when I think it was very trendy. And I know a lot of y'all are in chat going, there's no way that people buy into this, which the larger conversation here is not just about Goop. It is about the explosion of the wellness industry and how there is now a prominent pipeline to radical fascist right-wing beliefs starting off in wellness. So this is not just like, let's laugh at these ridiculous products that a company like Goop is selling, but also just offering from my own life. How many women I know have tried all these things, are always like, what's the latest thing on TikTok that's trending? Or, what am I reading here that, is the new thing? Coffee enemas were being promoted to me by plenty of women in my life as like, oh, you gotta do it. You gotta do it. It's so, yep. I'm like, I'm sorry. I go into my bathroom and I just do a coffee enema and then I'll be rocking and rolling.
And then they said there were countless times where she was promoting through Goop the brand, was promoting what many would call disordered eating. So these consistent calories.
Yes, this is related to wanting the population to be uneducated, wanting literacy to keep deteriorating, wanting industries to be unregulated, wanting wanting to sell gimmicky garbage, wanting to distract away from systemic issues by offering up these, by promoting lifestyles, by promoting, stuff that's often rooted in anti-science and is from right-wing perpetrators. And as things continue to deteriorate and as people become more desperate, they turn to alternative means.
Restrictive fasts and diets and wellness and the thing. So I'm hungry.
Yeah, it's like we won't give you healthcare.
I got an egg in my coochie.
So this is
and I got
your
coffee in my
only,
booty.
like, you got to go somewhere else.
And we wonder why these women are insufferable, why they're passive aggressive. Listen to me, how they're walking around the world.
The one of the leaders of the German branch of QAnon we all know QAnon. One of the leaders of the German branch was first known as the author of a vegan cookbook. This is a person who rose to prominence as a vegan cookbook author and then wound up as a leader of the German branch of QAnon. Like, there are many examples of this. Ooh, somebody starting off as, like, I don't know, in yoga and meditation, kind of that area, and then ending up as like a prominent QAnon or similar type of, really dangerous conspiratorial right-wing group as a prominent figure. Wasn't Hitler a vegetarian? Yeah, he had like weird, he didn't eat meat except for liver dumplings prescribed by his doctor. Some see him as a plant-based vegan figure.
This is not freedom. This is not feminism. You are hungry. It's why she don't feel nothing.
Or
She's
celestial
hungry.
tea being owned by
She
a
got
cult.
coffee in her booty. She got stickers on her body, and she got a jade egg in her coochie. It is, who wants to live that way? This is ridiculous. Overall, according to Paper Magazine, the watchdog group.
Also, another example is the QAnon shaman, who was like one of the main faces of January 6th. We all know QAnon shaman. He practices shamanic arts and he promotes like natural eating, organic food eating. Once has been described as an eco-fascist. Like, he's also very representative of this world.
Called Truth in Advertising found over 50 incidences of the lies on Goop's website around the products that they claimed had a wellness benefit. And I'm going to now
I've realized many vegan cookbook recipe authors are, I've been vegan for 15 years and had to throw away a lot of cookbooks. Yeah. And this is not me going after veganism or vegans, for the record. This is me using an example of somebody who came up in the wellness world. Like, I just use that kind of as a general term, a catch-all term, and then went down this crazy ass pipeline and became a leader of QAnon. And I'm not saying that like there's the correlation between if you are a vegan, then you will end up as like a right-wing fanatic, but it is this it is this like growing issue with radicalization occurring in this world. And for people who study conspiracy theories, like there's a great podcast, Conspirituality, is that what it's called? Conspirituality, I think. Yeah. There's quite a number of podcasts that get into this, but Conspirituality is a big one. And this is all that they look at. They look at the wellness to woo, the wellness to fashion pipeline, and are studying how people who have fallen victim to conspiracy theories are coming from this world. It gets to the core of how you approach rational decision-making, whether you trust institutional knowledge. And as trust in institutions is deteriorating, as people's material conditions are worsening, as the wealth gap only increases, as we now have fucking trillionaires, as there is a distrust in authority, there are more of these pipelines that open up. There are more avenues here for people then to fall down this radicalizing path.
Connect Goop to Maha. And I believe that Gwyneth Paltrow, this brand of white woman, and Goop are nothing more than agents of MAHA, Make America Healthy Again, which is a big component of MAGA, Make America Great Again. If you don't know MAHA, tune in, get locked and loaded in this point of the video because it's so incredibly important because these people are actually controlling health policy in this country.
Yes.
Making America Healthy should be innocuous, right? That should not have a political tone or tenor to it. However, Make America Healthy Again, MAHA, does. Under the guise of wanting to increase the availability of nutritious foods for children, of wanting to make families healthier again, of going against the medical industrial complex, of calling out big pharma, of wanting for Americans to know what's in their food and to know what's in their water and to have access to healthier food and water writ large. What they have actually done is disrupted and torn down many of the systems that actually keep us safe, like vaccines. And the poster child for this is a very unlikely figure, not a doctor of any type, not even a Cheyenne Bryant doctoral. He don't even have that doctoral with that lost transcript. Okay, is speaking of aristocracy, a lifelong Democrat that we knew, Robert.
Yeah, a guy who loves to push for deregulating pollutants of the environment.
Kennedy Jr., who also overcame a rampant drug addiction. And listen, I'm not condemning that. I just find it to be so interesting, the roles that they are allowed to play. So you telling me you was on heroin and now you were leading the Department of Health.
Dude,
should it be allowed?
Shit rivers.
Absolutely. Yeah. Should it be allowed? Absolutely.
A professor of environmental law who's now the face of Make America Healthy Again.
Why it only applies to him has to be questioned. On top of no medical credentials to be seen, found. I'm looking. I ain't seen a one. Has to be questioned.
Conspiratorial thinking is much more likely in people who are raised highly religious, where things are taken literally, lines between reality and fiction are blurred. Yes. And this, going back to us talking about Rainn Wilson earlier, he is somebody who, post his office success, has been really pushing the need for people to seek spirituality. He is a convert of the Baha'i faith, or I think maybe his parents raised him as that, whatever. But then he didn't really get into it until his adult years. And now he's part of this like weird cult with Justin Baldoni and Jamie Heath and Steve Sarowitz, the billionaire, a MAGA Zionist who's been backing Justin Baldoni. That's how he got the $30 million to in the lawsuit with Blake Lively. And so it's like, here's another person who's saying, well, here's the solution to people's problems. They need to get more spiritual. So another thing that, yes, people who grew up very, very religious, like very extremist religious have already been primed for this, but also like people who are turning to something to put their faith into because reality sucks ass. Like people who are so desperate, which is many, which is, everyone who's like not the monsters who are running this world. They are desperate for something to turn to. And also, long COVID absolutely has just wrecked the population. And we will find out as the years go on just how devastating COVID effects are. So it's all part of it.
Because outside of his penchant for a conspiracy theory, this person is totally unqualified, and he has demonstrated that over and over and over again. Unfortunately, he, however, has been the leader of this movement, and he galvanized many, many people around the 2024 election.
Every RFK Jr., every like news bit on RFK Jr. is something like this.
ask you about one more thing, if I can, before you go, Carrie, and that is just these viral videos that have come out of your brother and animals. One that he had posted of wrangling a pair of racer snakes with his bare hands. Cheryl, his wife, obviously, was repeatedly telling him to put them down. They were these racer snakes, I guess, on the porch of where they were, Dr. Oz's house or something like that, if I remember. But it just comes in the context of the dead bear cub, which with the carcass to look like it was in Central Park, that situation. And I know, your niece Kik claims he once used a chainsaw to decapitate a dead whale. That went on the roof of the minivan, and then he drove it home. I mean, all these stories.
She's like,
I'm just curious because someone had mentioned that he had a fascination with animals, with being a vet, animal carcasses since very young childhood. Does that jive with what you remember as his sister?
Yeah, absolutely. And to me, it's complicated. I'm so grateful to Bobby as my older brother when I was a kid. His fascination of nature, he shared with all of us, and he took me to.
Isn't that like, I mean, granted, we don't know he was killing the animals, but that is a like classic serial killer move.
Catch snakes and learn about frogs and salamanders and go on nature hunting trips. And he gave me a crow when I was a kid. It gave me a hawk. And I learned so much about him.
I don't know. Is the voice thing genetic?
Side. There was always another side.
She does sound like him.
This quick story. I guess my daughter is almost 30 now. So when she was maybe 4 years old, we were having our little birthday party, and I was looking in the garden and I found a snake. So I called Bobby. He just lived a mile down the road, and I said, "There's a snake in the garden." He rushed over with his infant son, Aiden, in one hand, who was just a few months old, and a bed sheet in another.
They have the same throat condition.
And he grabbed the snake and stuffed it into the pillowcase while he was holding his infant son. So that was a little scary. And then he walked up to where the rest of the birthday party was, and he reached into the bag, and this snake was just chomping on his hand. And he pulled out the snake to show the kids. Then there was a vole, which looks like a mole, a combination of a mole and a mouse. And he grabbed that with his hand, and he put it into the bag with the snake, which made all the kids scream because now they were afraid the snake would eat the bowl. So then he shoved his hand back into the pillowcase and grabbed the snake, which chomped on him a few more times. Then we went over to his house a mile away. There were tons of kids in the swimming pool, and he released this snake that had chomped on his hand into the swimming pool. Now, so this is somebody who on the one hand has a fascination with nature, but on the other hand,
a sick fuck.
Has, a lack of judgment when it comes to the safety and care of children. And so is this the person who you want running HHS, who's got this lack of judgment when it comes to health and safety? And I think we've got...
You can just shorten it by saying he's a sick fuck.
But somebody who's been consistent about these things throughout his life.
Wow. That's an unforgettable story.
Love the classic. Wow. After just something insane. Wow. That is quite a story. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, let's also not forget RFK Jr., I'm going to say allegedly, driving his second wife to suicide. So this is a man who has not just done sick shit with animals. He's done sick shit to people. Okay. He said himself, "I have skeletons in my closet." Remember that line? Where he's like, "I have skeletons in my closet," when he was running for president. Yep. This guy's in charge of our health department. Chad, we are dead if a person like this is in charge of keeping us healthy. We have diseases and parasites coming back that we eradicated 100 years ago. Yes, there are children dying of diseases that we eradicated via vaccines, via modern medicine. those deaths are on the hands of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. So he's not just like a meme. He's not just like, oh, here's some weird shit that RFK Jr. did with another dead animal. He is a menace to the human population.
First, under his potential for presidency, and then for Donald Trump. And as a result of him dropping out of the race, he then curried favor with Trump and became our Secretary of Health of the United States of America. This country is a joke. It is one big SNL skit. This stuff, it writes itself at this point. And we know that under RFK, there have been lots of loosening of restrictions and regulations around research and science. There have been some very high-profile people who have left the administration and called him out on that. We know that he is a very proud anti-vaxxer and said during his, I think it was Senate conference.
There was a huge piece. I can't remember what publication it came out in, but there was a huge piece that detailed a lot of his dark past, including the circumstances surrounding the suicide of his second wife, Mary Kennedy, mother to his 4 kids. And he was so unfaithful and kept a documentary of all his sexual conquests, which not all these sexual conquests were consensual, mind you. And Mary had struggled with, she just already had struggled with substance abuse, mental health issues, found the diary of his where he detailed all of his affairs. So there was a lot of turmoil that led up to her death. It was in the middle of a divorce. Yeah, he has a very dark past.
Information that he would not promote anti-vax
His male
policy.
cousin, he got addicted to cocaine and heroin because he couldn't do drugs alone. Most weird shit ever is how it runs in the family. I recommend the book Ask Not, the Women the Kennedys and Women They Destroyed. Yes, there's a long trail of broken and deeply damaged women in the Kennedy family. We need to talk about Rose Kennedy.
However, he has, and we've suffered a measles outbreak in this country. I mean, the actual American Academy of Pediatrics doctors have had to come out against the Secretary of Health's policies around childhood vaccines and immunizations. The pediatricians, they had to all come together and to speak against the policies that were coming out of the administration. Overall, under his tenure and continued tenure, there have been decades of research and science and data collection that have completely gone by the wayside. We know that it has put the public and our health at ongoing risk. And back to my previous point about who's actually going to suffer the most, it is not them.
No.
It's not the Maha moms. It is people who live in inner cities,
But yes, disproportionately. But also, it is the Maha moms because they are a part of the United States population that is experiencing some of the worst rollbacks on air and water and environmental protections. That RFK Jr. and his allies are talking, had built this movement around, these dangers of toxic chemicals in our food and in our water and our medicine, et cetera, while also participating in creating more pollutions, more toxins, allowing corporations off the hook as they pollute our environment to an even greater degree. They live in, right. So that's what makes you want to rip your fucking hair out when you hear people who are a part of the Maha movement who live in society with the rest of us and are like, but there's all these chemicals in food, water. And we're like, yes, but you have aligned yourself with a man, RFK Jr., who absolutely does not give a shit about chemicals in the water, chemicals in our food, concerns that, people across the political spectrum share, because he is a part of an administration that keeps rolling back regulations to protect our environment, who's making it worse, who's like, oh, here's these beautiful public lands. Yeah, we're going to let these corporations in to mine these lands. We're going to sell off these public lands and also give these corporations tax breaks as they pillage these lands.
Who are lower income, is people who don't have access to wealth and privilege. It is people who are struggling to survive and to stay alive. It is Black people. It is Black people who are going to suffer as a result of what is happening currently. But that's okay, because I'm about to get me a $66 noni egg. I'm about to put an egg. I'm about to put an egg in my coochie and Cafe Bustelo in my butt.
That's it.
I'll be all right.
All you need.
Who needs a vaccine? Who needs a vaccine? Pass me a sticker. Shit. People are crazy. And this part of the video for me, y'all, is not a red herring. It is central to my thesis that these people are harmful. They are not our allies. And no matter how much feminist language Gwyneth Paltrow and her friends tote, they cannot.
Also, this gets at how the concerns of the population, of populist concerns, get co-opted. This is not just beginning with Maha. This is a recurring pattern. It gets co-opted into authoritarian frameworks, authoritarian governments like Trump's, and they use these concerns, they echo these concerns while simultaneously doing everything to make those concerns even worse by deregulating, by rolling back protections, by offering even more immunity for these corporations who are polluting our planet. Yes, Ewolf, yes, a fascist tendency to frame health as an individual level phenomenon. That is also the capitalist mindset, where it is a focus, an emphasis on the individual. And it's a who cares about creating social programs, social safety nets? Who cares about having the government create programs to support and alleviate support people's needs and alleviate their concerns? It's all about your individual decisions.
Be trusted, because she said herself,
and if you make
and
the
I
right
quote
decisions,
to Vanity Fair, that she's very fascinated by the Maha movement, saying a lot of our institutions are really failing us. Well, duh. Well, and you're creating another one, right? Because you want to replace Big Pharma with Big Wellness. That's what you've done. Your empire is worth $250 million. No one's disagreeing. And trust me, I'm not riding hard for the medical industrial complex in this country in any way, given my people's history with the ways that our bodies have been testing grounds. Black women have been actual breeders in this country, right? I mean, we grew up understanding just intuitively before we even learned about it in that one little section it was probably like fifth grade, that one line in the entire history book about the Tuskegee experiment. Because our lived experiences were examples of it. Right?
Yeah, and yes, white people, white women in particular, like Jenny McCarthy, et cetera, are the face of Maha, are the face of like the anti-vax movement. But more and more Black and brown women are being drawn into this as well. And that is a that is a direct result of their experiences with racism in the medical industry, with, that's representative of their economic situation. So this isn't something that just white ladies are up, it's not just a movement that is of wealthy white ladies. I think a lot of people think of like kind of your stereotypical suburban white conservative mom, but it's important to understand actually the diversity here of race and class as more and more people are responding to a deteriorating system, and one that is in its death throes, and one that is pushing people to act in more desperate ways.
My grandfather needs dental work right now. He's like, oh, my tooth fine, I ain't going to the doctor. It is the experimentation on our bodies that has led us to be highly distrustful of the medical system. I get it. I understand that intellectually, intuitively, my lived experiences dictated. But what you're not going to ever do is get me to debunk and to not believe in science. Ever. Ever. Do I believe we need to completely overhaul the system? Obviously. But they ain't talking about that. They're talking about individual solutions to a systemic issue. Hear me? Because when vaccines are gone, their children are going to be all right. Ours will not. So whether you see Goop as an all-out grift, at least its origins, and you see it as a spreader of health, mis and disinformation, and likely, which I haven't gotten too deep in here, also spreaders of fat phobia and disordered eating. So whether you see it there as a nefarious institution, also the Gwyneth Paltrow brand.
Also, just a reminder, if you don't know Tuskegee, it was an experiment that was conducted on a group of Black men. And there was one group that had syphilis and then a control group that did not have syphilis. It was absolutely horrifying because these men were not informed of the nature of this study. They were not given treatment because they wanted to study the effects of syphilis when left untreated. So over 100 died as a result of this. It was incredibly fucked and is an example of the just insidious history of medical racism. Maple Takes, thank you for the raid. Maple Raid, our favorite Canadian commentator. Welcome home. Thanks, dude. Glad to be back at the desktop talking about Gwyneth, Goop, wellness to fascism pipeline, medical racism, all the things that are not good, and then when combined are even worse. Next bagel review stream. I should do a review of like best bagels at a grocery store. Hey, here's like trying out Trader Joe's bagels versus a Whole Foods versus a Ralph's, because I am the bagel queen. Queezer, thank you for the 11 months. All the dental practices done on slaves, all experimental, inhumane practices. Yes. The father of gynecology and the person who helped found the first women's hospital is largely tied to Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, experimented on enslaved women without anesthesia. He was also part of the mass sterilization without consent of women of Puerto Rico. Yeah. It's like a lot of things in history, very fucked, and is important, and it's necessary to understand so that when we are applying a modern lens, when we are looking at something like the Make America Healthy Again movement, women specifically mothers being driven down this anti-science, anti-vax rabbit hole. You have to know the historical, political, and social elements. To be clear, they did not have syphilis. Yes, some of them did. Yes, there was one group that had syphilis. There was one group that didn't have syphilis. The group that had syphilis were left untreated because they wanted to see what syphilis does to a body when left untreated. They were studying the effects of the disease on Black men who were not informed of this study, who were not given proper treatment, because that would then go against the point of this fucking evil ass study. And then the control group was the control group did not have syphilis. So they had two different groups. They told them they were treating them, but they were just studying them. You missed the last part of the comment. I was saying they didn't have it. It was given to them. My understanding is that there were, there were people who had syphilis, but they were not informed of their diagnosis. So it wasn't like, this does not erase the evil racism that took place, but they were men who were not informed. They were used in this study because they were not informed that they had syphilis, or they knew they had syphilis. They were told that they would be given treatment for. Anyway, it's a lot of evil elements to this study that is infamous for its evil.
Is representing such as well.
Savage
or you
Scroller,
see
thank you for the
them
gifted.
much more apologetically, right? It's people who just may be misinformed but care about the world, and she made some mistakes.
They were also promised, I think they were promised free medical care and funeral expenses if they participate in this, and they were told that it was going to be like 6 months, and then it was decades. They were untreated in order to allow the disease to progress without consent or knowledge. Yeah. One of the most fundamental pillars of medical research were named after Black woman Henrietta Lacks, whose body tissue was used without her consent and then used by white doctors in their papers and such. Yes. And then, you fast forward to today with the horrific story of that Black woman who was pregnant, went to the hospital complaining of like having head pain, and they went, you're fine. She went home, and then she actually had a serious condition that was untreated. And as a result of that, she died, but they kept her body on life support because of the evil ass heartbeat abortion bill. So they kept her on life support and then used her as an incubator for this fetus. And then it was, the baby was born very, very prematurely. This went against her family's wishes. And then afterwards they just discarded her body.
Matter, right? Intention is immaterial. Because what we do know irrefutably is that the brand has been a pipeline to Maha. And Maha has been a pipeline to MAGA. And MAGA represents a white nationalist.
Adriana Smith, who was 9 weeks pregnant and was declared brain dead after she suffered a medical emergency that she had gone into the hospital, complaining of pain that she was experiencing, and Classic was just it was just written off. Went home, and then it worsened, and it caused her death. And then as if that wasn't bad enough. Against her family's wishes, she was kept on life support to keep her organs functioning so that the fetus could be delivered.
This authoritarian regime. And if you have ever wondered, well, how did we get here? It's these types of movements that are small feeders in rivers to a larger ocean that is absolutely polluted. Before I go, I got two last things to get into. Number one was this wellness argument, because I thought Rachel in the cutting room floor argument really pushed back against her. And I would think that entire line of thinking about wellness and how this word is just simply thrown around. What does it actually mean to be well? Right? You have to assume a level, as Rachel said, of unwellness to want to be well. And while I understand that many of us are seeking something greater, we want to be on earth forever, there are toxins all around us. We are in a very scary place right now with the pervasiveness of optimization. This idea that our individual health, my biometric data, my sleep score, and I'm saying this is someone who has an Oura ring that I actually love, right? My continuous glucose monitor, even though I don't have sugar. I don't got sugar. But I got this on because I got to know my blood sugar spikes.
Oh yeah, the wellness pipeline also pushes people towards transphobia by painting us as lifetime customers of big pharma for HRT, and also because of biological purity, all like the creepy ass purity speak, and because it's become a very prominent far right radicalizing route. So yeah, that is going to bring along transphobia.
My avocado toast, my 252 grams of protein a day, my protein powder, my raw milk down there at the ballerina farm. My. Data. We are at the point where it is actually divorcing us from community, and one of the major indicators of actually being healthy, which is love, which is being grounded, which is mental health, right? Those things are also equally important indicators, I would assume. I just know the people in my life. Also indicators of health, wellness, and longevity. But no, baby. It is the protein powder. It is the thing. It is the device. It is the certain exercises done on a certain day, led in the thing, in the class, in the Lululemon, in the aloe. It is a thing. It is always a material tie to what it means to be well or what it means to be unwell. And the continued optimization, I think, is the opposite.
Bro, optimization is one of those words that now we cannot escape. It's a word that is particularly loved by the fitness kind of manosphere bro culture. They love to talk about optimizing. It's also something that tech bros love to use because of the overlap there. When I start hearing like someone use the terms like optimization, I go, oh no. Oh no.
Of what it means to actually be healthy, because you're focusing on a bunch of metrics, and those metrics solely. And ultimately, for what? Gwyneth was like, I'm detox, I have, there's like bio things, like a biometric, like my engineer, like there's things in my body. So that like I can't detox. So detoxing is really hard for me. And Rachel busts out laughing in her face. Like, Gwyneth, you've been detoxing for 20 years. You ain't detoxed yet? Hey, all of y'all. If whatever the detox is, if you have been doing it for 20 years and your body's still toxed, it's a grift. It's just like parasites in
maybe
my body,
your soul is the
my body.
toxin.
Oh wait, let me just see what my data says. Oh, my data, my body, my data, my body. My sleep score, my sugar spike, my sugar spike, my sugar spike.
We really just are a set of metrics. We're just data. We're just data to be optimized, data to be pilfer, data, just numbers, just metrics.
I'm laughing also because I'm susceptible to this, and I have to pull myself back from the brink.
Yeah, yes. We're all susceptible. We also live in a society that's very fat phobic. And that is a part of this as well. It's the fat phobia in our society. And so a lot of this stuff that gets promoted too is promoting an ideal of thinness, which goes back to Eurocentric beauty standards.
Let's leave school. Don't do this. Don't do this, man. Please don't. Drink some water. Grease your scalp. Call your grandmama. Laugh. Have a cocktail. Sit on your front porch. Get some sun. Go by the ocean.
Butthole.
There are so many more important things than being highly restrictive day to day under the so-called quest of wellness. And I'm especially concerned about the message that it sends to women in particular. Because I also think that much of this, let's talk about it, are vanity metrics for being skinny. It's hiding disordered eating. But we're calling it wellness. And the last point is about the fake feminism, man. Miss me with that. I don't even want no ally no more. I want a co-conspirator. Are we in this thing or we not in this thing? If we're in this thing, then you are in my way. Get out my way. Move. Get out the way. You're not my ally. You're not. I don't care how many Emma-Grede, Sheryl Sandberg, quote, I don't care, Gwyneth, about the patriarchy, how many times you say it. I don't care. You want to be like a white man. I want the idea of a straight white man's power and privilege to be completely dismantled. You want what they have. I don't want what they have to exist. I want to live in a world that is liberated. You see, that is the difference between us. That, and I also don't put Cafe Bustelo in my booty. Other things I might put in my booty, man. I ain't putting no Cafe Bustelo in my booty, okay? On the topic of health, y'all, I will leave my MIDI code down below. They are doctors that I trust. This video is not sponsored, but I've talked to you about them time and time again, especially for those of us who are at a big age. I will also leave my girl, Margot Lindauer, down below, who is a nutritional practitioner. You all know that I trust Nourish Boston. I have seen my girl in action, both in our individual consultations and just our friendship, but also in a group setting, and I highly recommend her services. We can and we should be well, but we should not be victims to pseudo-feminist rhetoric and health dis and misinformation while we are at it. That is all today, y'all. Sound off below. I know you have lots of opinions. Keep it respectful, keep it cute, but I do love healthy dialogue, so let's have at it. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you good people next time. Bye.
Yeah, she nailed it. Unfortunately, though, I mean, still good, 32,000 views, not trying to knock that. But when I compare it to the wellness influencers, when I compare it to like what kind of content is much more commonplace and also just rewarded in the algorithm, what pops off online, what is the type of wellness content that people are consuming for the most part. And it's always when you apply a critical lens, when you come in with like the political and social context here, when you are, when you are progressive, it is harder to, it's harder to get your commentary in front of this other crap. Speaking of optimization, 70-minute video with Peter Thiel and Brian Johnson, connections, enhanced games, the recent competition that allowed steroids was allowed. Oh my God. Okay,
The enhanced game.
Let me bookmark this. The incredible failure of the enhanced games. What the fuck? Yeah, so that is Politics and Fashion channel, on YouTube. And speaking of the eating disorder crisis, my girl, Kat Tenbarge, Spitfire News, coming in with the piece that I needed. Because when I try to have this conversation, I feel like it's a frustrating one to have. So I always appreciate Kat's writing on this matter. Okay, we can't post our way out of an eating disorder crisis. It's not just about a pop star's latest tour. We need a total cultural reckoning. Chloe, thank you for the 21 months. Content warning, this article discusses eating disorders in celebrities who've been scrutinized. It may be triggering for some readers. So this is a piece that she wrote in response to all of the discourse around Ariana Grande and her pretty apparent, I would say, and also continuous weight loss and all of the comments and discourse that this has sparked. From 2006 to 2018, an era where body positivity supposedly reigned on social media, global rates of eating disorders more than doubled. Then in 2020, rates of people seeking eating disorder treatment skyrocketed, especially among teenagers. While studies show up to 1 in 5 women may suffer from an eating disorder in her lifetime, men aren't far behind. I think this is higher too. These are the types of studies that I go, this is higher. It's a matter of people not having an understanding, there not being like a social awareness around disordered eating. So 1 out of 5 women suffering from an eating disorder, that is just anecdotally, but also understanding how we are lacking still in a cultural reckoning around disordered eating. That is higher. Financial Diet did a good video on Ari and Edie in the media too. Love Financial Diet. And eating disorders in communities of color are less likely to be researched, recognized, or treated. Par for the course. These disorders can't be trivialized, especially when they have the second highest mortality rate of any mental health condition behind opiate addiction. Much like domestic abuse and sexual violence, eating disorders are a deadly public health crisis that disproportionately affects women and girls and is only getting worse. And much like sexual violence, the popular discourse around these topics tends to hyperfixate on famous women and what blame they shoulder for these societal ills. Sometimes these conversations occur under the guise of progressive feminist concern, but they typically stop short of the kind of feminism that is necessary to actually describe these crises in their entirety, let alone combat them. Because to describe this crisis too is to come from a framework that is anti-capitalist. And a lot of feminism falls short, is not true feminism because it is not anti-capitalist in its feminism. Usually I lead my newsletter with a celebrity or other pop culture example because I know they serve as a good hook. Psychologically, we are drawn to famous people and their stories. But when it comes to eating disorders, I'm increasingly finding this to be an incomplete approach, one that is missing the larger picture and the majority of people affected. Still, celebrity cases matter. Especially in our social media-driven culture, public figures occupy more of our feeds and headspace and attention than ever. They set trends and standards and inform our day-to-day lives. So I too was concerned when I saw pictures and videos of pop star Ariana Grande on tour for the first time in 7 years. I don't feel the need to repost and gawk at the images of Grande here. And if you haven't seen them, all you have to do is go to her Instagram account where she has over 360 million followers. Also, stans of hers have taken to editing her photos to make her look less emaciated, which is, yeah, I mean, that's like Nicki Minaj stans who are editing photos of her at major cultural events that she's no longer invited to. And they are AI. They're using AI to put her anyway. The Sands, there's nothing that they won't do. There are more than 1.5 million likes on a black and white photo of her in a Catwoman outfit on tour, but most of the commentary online is about how visible her bones are. Like I wrote last year, talking about Grande's apparent eating disorder has become a massive point of cultural contention. To be clear, every medical expert I've ever spoken to has cautioned against diagnosing people from afar and then jumping to conclusions about what they need. At the same time, I completely understand why videos decrying choice feminism and gaslighting around Grande's appearance have resonated with so many viewers. I myself cannot look at her performing without feeling uneasy. Like many casual fans, I'm genuinely worried about her health and longevity. I'm also concerned about her impact on others. The most recent research on eating disorders identifies depictions of extreme thinness on social media as an exacerbating factor, much like magazines and television were linked to eating disorders in the pre-internet age. But when it comes to how people are talking about Grande in service of not normalizing her body to other women and girls, I fear the message being sent will do the exact opposite. For at least some people struggling with eating disorders, concern and disapproval only exacerbates the condition. It might reinforce the perception that being disordered will result in care and attention they might not otherwise receive. I'm not just spitballing here. Clinical dietitians say this is actually happening with their patients and critical Reddit threads about Grande. So what can we do? When it comes to Grande, there's actually nothing we can do for her directly, and I suspect this undergirds a lot of the frustration online. People feel helpless to stop what seems to be happening right in front of them. We have an illusion of closeness to Grande because we see images and videos of her so frequently, but unlike a friend or relative, we can't actually intervene in her life. Some commenters have shifted the blame to her inner circle, but as anyone who intimately knows about eating disorders can tell you, there's no quick fix or direct way to resolve someone else's mental health condition, especially when they are an adult. So does that mean we can't do anything? Nope. There's actually a lot that people can do to combat the eating disorder crisis, but it has way more to do with institutions than individuals. But as we have talked about all the time, people like to focus on the individual over the institution. First of all, people can learn more about eating disorders from actual experts instead of random social media posters or acquaintances. I'm guilty of the latter, we all are, but have been making a concerted effort to do more of the former. Our culture is rife with myths about body positivity, eating disorders, and beauty standards. Two feminist books I've read that have excellent chapters on eating disorders are Pixel Flesh by Ellen Atlanta and Hood Feminism by Mickey Kendall. Anorexia and extreme thinness are also far from the only kind of eating disorder. Binge eating disorder, bulimia, ARFID, which is avoidant restrictive food intake. This is what the daughter in the 2025 Oscar contender, If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, was suffering from. And orthorexia, which is an obsession with healthy eating. And this is one that I see absolutely blooming all over the place. And one that I see a lot of men falling victim to. This is part of wellness culture. This is part of optimization, etc. And this is something that people don't see the disordered eating elements in it. They're like, no, it's just healthy eating. Isn't it good to eat healthy? Isn't it good to take care of yourself? And so that then becomes a shield, and then is like why a lot of people fall down and continue to have this really unhealthy relationship with food, because it is framed as taking care of yourself. It's framed as eating healthily. Like everything is protein. Now you get protein, everything. Protein chips, protein, literally just the protein in everything. This tends to be underrepresented in our awareness of what eating disorders are and what they look like. We often assume that people who look normal or overweight to us are not struggling with eating disorders, even though people across the weight and body type spectrum do. So when we only raise our cultural alarm around the thinnest celebrity women, we reinforce the idea that this is the only kind of body we care about. We overlook and even minimize or deny the far more common realities of eating disorders. Part of the reason I wanted to cover this topic again is because my social media feeds are again flooded with nonstop conversation about Grande, centering the same woman in a discourse that has only ever moved in circles. This, to me, is reflective of the broader entertainment industry and technological shifts to algorithm-driven FYPs that reinforce the existing status quo around which people and which bodies matter. And it can be monetized. The kind of superstardom and spotlight that Grande has existed in for more than a decade is part of the problem. So is the lack of body diversity on our screens, which is something that body positivity and body neutrality have sought to address. Because here's the thing too, if there were say a media depiction of somebody who society would classify as fat, right, overweight, somebody like that with a body like that, where they have an eating disorder, people be like, yeah, fucking right. How can you have an eating disorder if you're fat? Because the cultural perception, the myths around eating disorder is that only people whose bones are showing, who are extremely, extremely thin, have an eating disorder. So it's like even trying to have a not just like diversity of bodies on in media, but also like diversity of eating disorders. This is a spectrum. This is not just something that affects one particular group of people or results in one particular type of body. While people dismiss these movements and other popular feminist causes like Me Too as failures, the reality is that they didn't go far enough. They were met with cultural backlash and a retraction of our rights and gains. It's not a coincidence that pro-eating disorder spaces are growing under Trump 2.0. Self-harm, white Eurocentric beauty standards of thinness, women's subordination, and fascism are all correlated. Here's another piece of this puzzle I think we're overlooking. For everyone saying Grande is too skinny, there's an even louder chorus of voices saying other women are too fat. Violent fat phobia is alive and well, as visceral as the GLP-1 ads on my daily commute. The negative impact of ads showing already thin women taking medication for aesthetic weight loss is even more pervasive than any specific celebrity, according to the most recent surveys in the eating disorder research space. Instead of trying to regulate a person from afar, it would be incredible to see people advocating for regulating and limiting the reach of these kinds of ads. Why should I and the little girl sitting next to me on the train be bombarded with advertisements telling us that we aren't thin enough? There is no winning in a culture where you are always either considered too big or too small, and worse, your size is viewed as an extension of your character and your morality. Not all of the posts about Grande are anti-feminist, but it is a fraught conversation littered with misogyny. One reason I can tell is because other random celebrity women keep getting lumped into this conversation and judged and shamed for their appearances. No, concern over thinness isn't always body shaming, but we have to acknowledge that a lot of the viral discourse about Grande is both cruel and actively harmful to the people seeing it. Pointing this out isn't necessarily being a stan or enabling someone's eating disorder. This is where the conversation veers into mis and disinformation about EDs and misplaced blame. Some of the most discouraging posts I've seen insist that people who aren't calling out Grande's appearance have blood on their hands. This is a complete misrepresentation of both our responsibility as pop culture consumers and how eating disorders and other mental illnesses actually work. If we want to address the crisis of eating disorders, we have to ensure, above all else, that people have universal access to nutrition and healthcare. This conversation isn't truly productive until we address the biggest systemic failings of them all: food insecurity, for-profit medical care, and the loss of bodily autonomy for women and girls. These are not necessarily as engaging as posts about Grande, but for the vast majority of people suffering from eating disorders, they are contributing factors. A feminist solution has to address basic needs and the entrenched culture of patriarchy that sets us all up for failure. It can't just identify certain women as the problem. But as I say all the time, that is less interesting. That is less like algorithmically popping. That is the broader conversation. That is here is discourse around one particular individual, usually someone famous, usually a famous woman. But we need to have the larger conversation here. And it requires nuance. It requires not just condemning an individual. And especially with eating disorders, as we've talked about, one very insidious thing about eating disorders as a mental health condition is that calling out how thin someone has gotten, how scarily thin someone has gotten, can, for people who struggle with eating disorders, be encouraging. It reinforces that what they are doing to their bodies as a result of this mental health condition that they have is it's working. A lot of times, if you're not underweight, you won't even be diagnosed, treated as anorexic. You're called atypical anorexic. I've known people who are basically told to come back when they were underweight. And so instead of getting the help needed, they felt challenged by doctors to make their disorder and health worse just to be taken seriously. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's why you can't have this conversation of eating disorders without talking about fat phobia in society, and just our very, very narrow cultural understanding of bodies, of eating disorders. Thank you for covering this. I'm a huge fan of Ariana, but I'm also scared for her. People are cruel to her about this. She needs help, but good Lord, I see so many people bullying her. And I get that it is frustrating. It is frustrating if you are somebody who struggles, because eating disorders are really lifelong struggles, like mental health conditions are lifelong struggles. So somebody who is triggered by this because of their own history of eating disorders, some, people who are angered at the influence she has and seeing young fans of hers like worship how she looks. Like, I understand the emotions that come from that, but there are definitely people, of course, people online who just take it as an opportunity to be cruel, and they actually have no purpose aside from cruelty. And that's what really muddies the conversation and turns it into, then you get the kind of progressive, even though it's not, it's well-meaning but misguided progressive defense of, we just still constantly talk about women's bodies. Women are never good enough. These beauty standards are unattainable, impossible. If you are seen as, if you are fat, then you are condemned. Like, all the tabloids being so cruel to women who were like 120 pounds. And then when they would lose a bunch of weight, how then it's just the same conversation around them. So I get that this is a complex conversation, and it is not but this is why having this conversation this way is a lot harder, and is also not something that does as well in the algorithm. People want like the quick bites. They want the let's all just, the position here is, to condemn Ariana Grande, talk about how, Skeletor Grande or whatever other nicknames. And it's like, the YouTube headline being Ariana Grande is practically dead, or whatever other kind of clickbait shit. Andrians, thank you for the 10 months. One of the most upsetting things when it comes to disordered eating and body image issues is when people are like, just don't look at stuff that triggers you, brother. I'd have to gouge my eyes out at that point. It's everywhere. Yes. Every other ad on every platform, never any comments on women's bodies, insane amount of people who Photoshop everything to be as perfect as possible. How are you supposed to not look at this stuff when this is entrenched in our culture? Like, this is a societal issue. You can't avoid it, because we are socially conditioned from the moment that we are born. The images that are displayed in media, the hierarchy of beauty, the reinforcing of standards. It's like we all live in this society. We all live under this system. We all live under this capitalist patriarchal system that is why we are still experiencing these issues. It's like the conversation echoing, or all the discourse echoing the early 2000s when I was a kid. Wellness grifters and capitalism literally manufacturing risk factors for type 5 diabetes when epidemiology thought it was limited to countries with low SES malnutrition. Like, what timeline are we living in? Ugh. And this is like the type of thing that some TikToker will just post pictures of Ariana Grande and then somehow also find a way to link that to like her being woke. I don't know. It's people can make anything out of anything, and they absolutely do. And it just muddies up the whole discourse. But that's why when Kat wrote this, I was like, oh, yep, here we go. This is what I need. Yep, this is what I need. Talking about a total cultural reckoning, that's what I'm about. One thing about me is it's always going to come back to a total cultural reckoning. The way that I operate is it is not about an individual or even a handful of individuals. It is about a total fucking cultural reckoning. It is about a dismantling of these systems. It is about recognizing how we have been conditioned from birth. What do we do? I mean, people will continue talking regardless, mentioning it even positively like this encourages more discourse. Well, it's like Kat suggested here, where one thing to do is try and really get your information from experts, not just random people online. Recognizing why we just go in circles, why this is cyclical, why we find ourselves here time and time again. So it's having that cultural awareness to start with, because that's the thing, is that like you continue to participate in something blindly when you do not have this cultural awareness, when you do not have this understanding of the roots of these issues, when you only look at the surface here, when you only focus on individuals, when you only like think about when your entire worldview is also rooted in discourse around celebrities, but that discourse is often so shallow and misogynistic and perpetuates these issues. I like when you talk about this because I find so many of us share the same kind of stories about this stuff. It's oddly therapeutic to know so many people have experienced these horrors, as sad as it may be. Oh yeah. I mean, how could we not? It's like wilder to escape being a victim of something like the ongoing eating disorder crisis, because we are surrounded by it, because it is so entrenched. It's so insidious too, because that type of rhetoric is so normalized in society that a lot of times you don't even question it. Right. I mean, it's everything too, products that are being hawked to us, everything in pursuit of beauty, the reinforcement of like attaining perpetual youth as a priority, fascism linked to a rise in an emphasis on extremely thin bodies. Generally, though, with the proliferation of social media misinformation, I don't think there's any reversal of this pattern. I mean, look, am I saying we're going to solve this overnight? No. Am I saying social media is the cause of this? No. Social media has the ability to exacerbate, and social media, because of the platforms being controlled by all these techno-fascist evil fuckers, is promoting this stuff to you. So like if you Google something like, say, GLP-1s or whatever, or like, I don't know, anything wellness related, you are then being fed all of this content, a lot of which is anti-science, that is medical disinformation and misinformation, that is perpetuating these societal ills, that is being fed to you. So like, what I do here is not offer us the simple solution. I'm not like, here's what we do and then problem fixed. Okay, this is not like changing a tire out. It's not like you get a flat tire, here's how you change out a flat tire. Bing, bang, boom. What I do is have these conversations, is try and raise our cultural awareness so that we can, through this collective understanding, recognize how these issues manifest on a daily basis and try to be more mindful and thoughtful and aware of how we participate and contribute to these things, but also reminding that these are systemic. It's systemic in nature. So as much as on an individual basis, we can try our best to be more conscious and aware, this is something that is not going to, there's not a quick fix here because it's so deeply linked to these systems that we live under. How do we know when healthy eating becomes unhealthy? I mean, I am not a doctor. I'm not a doctor. What I would say is for me, when I have had unhealthy eating thoughts, when I have struggled with body image issues, when I have found myself doing things that are like not good in the pursuit of being skinny, that's a result of feeling like I'm failing to meet beauty standards. That's not coming from me wanting to like feel stronger, wanting to get in better shape, wanting like having like, I don't know, being being chill about it, everything in moderation, and not to these extreme lengths where it results in like it's affecting my life in more negative ways than I may understand. But also listening to your body. Yeah, listening to your body. If you are hungry, if your body is like, I need nutrients, and you go, no, because that is what will make you fat. So I'm going to deny myself these nutrients that I need in order for, your body is a machine, right? It's an engine. It's an engine. You have to take care of that engine. And so when you are delving into, I would say like unhealthy eating habits to disordered eating like full-blown eating disorders, it's you, it's you. I mean, it's mental health conditions. It's denying your body what it needs to function, what it needs for the engine to run properly. Also, if you're taking ADHD medications, literally force yourself to eat. Even if you're not hungry, you can build the habit. You'll develop a healthy appetite with consistency. One reason why I've been going to the gym is because it's actually been regulating my metabolism, which is making me feel hungry. Because when I was not working out and when I was just like doing nicotine all day and like coffee and nicotine, it's not that I was like trying to have an eating disorder, but I didn't have a healthy appetite because I was not like getting my engine going, and I was consuming stimulants that were blocking my appetite.